Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, travel pro friends. Rita here. If you're new around here, my name is Rita M. Perez. I am a travel advisor and industry mentor, educator on things marketing and business strategy. And this is a very important, I'm trying to be all jokey and hokey about it, but this really is an important podcast episode. I'm not sure how widely broadcast this information is for the travel industry, but there are super important updates when it comes to email marketing that you need to be aware of because they will take place on February 1st. Now, many of the people inside of my marketing business school community, they're already on top of the game. We've been talking about this for about a couple of months, but I thought it was also part of my due diligence in being the host of the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast that you should be aware of these changes that are happening in email marketing platforms also, so that if it is not already on your radar, you put them on your radar ASAP because your emails have a chance of not ever being delivered to the people that are on your email list. So, I quite honestly, I am relaying you information from a free webinar that I viewed by someone named Cheryl Rarick. I will have the link to that webinar below, and I will have a link to some places to get some additional information below. This podcast episode is really going to be high level, and especially for those of you who are sending out email. So who is this really affecting? It's if you are email marketing or you have email marketed before or you do want to email market and you're utilizing, which you should be utilizing, a program like MailerLite, MailChimp, Flowdesk, ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact, all of those. There are some changes that are going into effect and have started going into effect, but definitely going to affect February 1st. And so the first kind of things that went into effect by companies like Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft. A lot of us have emails through all those different companies. And so one of the first things that they've started doing back November, December-ish of last year was they were starting to deactivate some inactive accounts. So let me see if I can give you a high level of what's going on. In an effort to pretty much combat spam and get rid of the spare change, get rid of those accounts that are no longer active. And I'm sure many of us have opened dozens, maybe not as much, email accounts in the past. And because we've signed up for so many email lists in the past, we may have been you know what? I'm not going to use that email account anymore. And it's just filled this dead space in the World Wide Web universe. And so to reel in all of these dead/inactive accounts, Google, Yahoo, Microsoft are starting to scrub those emails. So if there's email accounts that haven't had any activity in the last 2 years, aka they're also known as abandoned accounts, bye. Those email accounts are going away. What this means for you is that if you have an email account that's on your email list that is affected by this, your deliverability, and that's really what the premise of this is the deliverability of your emails is at stake because of the changes that are happening. So if lots of the emails that are on your email list are these types of abandoned email accounts, That means that when these emails are no longer active and they've been deleted, you're going to have a higher bounce rate within your email marketing program. And that doesn't look good on you as a business owner. So, kind of first things first, if you haven't scrubbed your email list, so if you have people who are inactive on your email list, maybe you haven't emailed them in some time, send a, hey, remember me? I'm Rita. I'm your travel person. Send some sort of refresher list to re-engage them and see if they want to remain on your email list. And if they don't, or if you notice they don't even do any activity from some sort of re-engagement email, it is time to get them off of your email list, or at least off of like the regular segmented list that you have in your email marketing platform, so that you don't get dinged for having a lot of bounces on your account. And so, as I had mentioned, and I will not say I am not an email marketing expert. I'm really just trying to relay a lot of the things that I know from other content that I have consumed to give you a high level what's going on. In an effort to really counteract all the spam, and I know we've all been subject to different spam emails, whether it's spam bots or just people sending spam cold emails or things like that. Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft are really cracking down on these anti-spam measures, which should have always been in place. And I guess kind of technically were silently in place, but never any action was taken. And action is now being taken, which threatens the ability for your email service provider to deliver the emails to the people who have signed up to be on your email list. Deliverability means where email ends up after it's been delivered. So pretty much if you're looking at like the little workflow, the little tunnel, like let's imagine the 7 dwarves are in the mine mining for jewels. So there's somebody that is like deep in the mine, mining for jewels. Someone picks up the jewel. They're cleaning off the jewel. They put it in the barrel. Someone takes all the barrels out and then they bring them home, or whatever it is the 7 dwarf miners do. So there's a similar pattern that happens with email deliverability. You write an email. You write that email in a system like MailerLite. I use MailerLite. I also use Flowdesk. So pick your poison there. Once you have finished that email, you either schedule it within that system or you tell it to send it now. So as long as all those emails are active, your MailerLite, your Flowdesk, will go ahead and deliver those emails to the people that are on your email list. But before it gets to them, it gets onto their email service provider. So if they're a Google email or a Yahoo email or a Microsoft email, and these are just like the main players, everybody's going to be pretty much affected, even if it's not one of those accounts. If one of those deems that your email isn't great because of the deliverability factors, meaning it cannot authenticate certain things that we're going to talk about here, if it cannot authenticate certain updates that they want to be authenticated, that service provider does not have to deliver the email to your clients or potential clients on your email list because of that. So you've done all the work, your email service provider has done all the work, but if you haven't done the back-end domain authentication that is now required for you to do, and it is a one-time setup, to my knowledge, it's a one-time setup, and once you have everything configured, then you should be good to go in terms of authentication. Again, this is really high level, so I'm trying to talk about this, dumb it down a little bit, because for me, this was also very hard to process. And also get you the urgency that is needed for something like this, because again, these changes are going to be effect on February 1st. They'll be mandatory changes. You have to authenticate the domain that your email comes from. And so like for my travel business, I need to authenticate ritaventures.net. Now, something that I am currently doing before I authenticate my own domain. So this is my own like special case use. You may be similar, you may be not. I am actually working with one of my like business colleagues. Her name is amygraves. You may have heard her here on the podcast or on Prep for Wave Week before. She's talked a lot about Google on previous podcast episodes. And she is helping me because right now my domain and my email is being hosted on GoDaddy for my travel business website. I want it off of GoDaddy, and I wanted it off GoDaddy because GoDaddy is a little problematic. I won't get into that, but it's a little problematic. So before I even start this domain authentication process for Rita Ventures, this is the process that I'm undergoing next week. Actually, I've already hired Amy. She is taking care of this process, which is to move my domain off of GoDaddy onto a different domain registrar. And then once that has all been settled and we've opened my G Suite account for my Rita Ventures, then we will go ahead and move forward with domain authentication, but I will do that separately. I'm not sure that that's a service that she offers, but there might be a service that she might offer to do that. If you are in the same boat and you're wanting to migrate from one domain provider to another one, let me know. Reach out to me, and I'll also have Amy's information. You can tell her that you listened to Rita about changing your domains, and she will give you the special Rita offer promotion for sending you her way. So if you're needing to get that done, it's not a necessary step. Not everybody is going to need that part. I just know I need that part because I want to get away from GoDaddy. So the other part of this, first action step for you is to make sure that you're scrubbing your list. The people that are on your email list and that should stay on your email list are only the active people. The second thing that is a must do is that you must, if you don't already use a domain name for your email. So my email address, if you contact me for my travel business, is rita@ritaventures.net. If you are using something like ritaventures@gmail.com, no go. That is not going to be good anymore, especially if you are emailing through an email service provider. And this is a way to help. Remember, like the overall reason why these companies are doing this is to reduce the amount of spam emails and spam messaging that's happening. You know where spam comes from? At Gmail, at Yahoo, at Outlook.com email addresses. People that haven't invested in their own domain names. And so they are going to be really cracking down on that. So that is a must. That's no longer a nice to have. That's a need to have now, especially if you are using an email marketing program to send out regular emails to the people that are on your email list. So I don't recommend you do that through GoDaddy, buying a domain. I've heard some good ones being like Namecheap.com. I have a couple of domains on Namecheap. I've heard NameSilo is a good one. I've heard Bluehost is not a good one. So just do your own research to figure out what would be a really good platform to get your domain. It is, I would say, $20 or less for the year to register and keep your domain. You have to pay for it every single year. I think that's a worthwhile expense to be able to be making thousands of dollars from clients and sending out emails. So make sure that you are in doing that investment is to be getting a your name at yourdomain.com email address or .net email address. So that is the second thing, top important thing that you need to do. And then we can start talking about some more of the more complicated things that are part of this kind of like email domain authentication process that is happening. So, alrighty. So I'm going through my list here of things to remind you to do. So that's removing, or part of like the parameters about this is to remove those inactive subscribers. The other thing, and this is more for your email service provider, this is more for MailerLite, Flowdesk, ConvertKit, all of that, is that there must be a one-click unsubscribe on those emails. So an unsubscribe link was always necessary because of the Canned Spam Act. Now there has been an update to that, you know, sometimes when you unsubscribe, there's a little bit of a process. Maybe you have to go to 2 clicks, 3 clicks to like confirm that you want to unsubscribe. Now there's this new parameter that people must be able to there must be an option to just do 1 click and people can unsubscribe from your email list. So this is not on you. This is more on your email service provider. And I know slowly but surely, like this week I've gotten emails from MailerLite. I've also gotten emails from Flowdesk in the past week or two that I believe it seems like they're working on this stuff. And they're also reminding you, hey, this stuff has to get done. So that might be something that you might investigate a little bit more, is making sure that your unsubscribe link is a 1-click unsubscribe, because this helps get people easily off. Like if you've ever been on somebody's email list and it's been hard to get off their email list, you'll understand why this 1-click unsubscribe is super important. Then the chunkiest of this process and the new parameters is this domain authentication, where there's a couple of components. And this is why I'm doing high level and I'm trying to reiterate as best I can from this webinar that I saw. Highly recommend watching the webinar yourself so that you can get a better grasp on these things, because I had no idea what SPF, DMARC, or DKIM meant before watching this webinar about these email marketing changes. So let's go on with the first. So there's 3 things that need to be authenticated. And these have to do, if I'm remembering correctly, these have to do like with the DNS records. And those are records like on the back end of the domain name that you've purchased, wherever you've purchased that. So the first thing that needs to be updated is something called SPF, which Cheryl mentions is really essentially an approved senders list. So you are adding in pretty much who is approved to send emails from your domain. And this can be things like Google Workspace. This can be things like MailerLite. In travel space specifically, I'm thinking Travify, Turn, TravelJoy. Any place where your email address is being used to send people's emails has to go on this approved senders list. I don't know how to set this up, quite honestly. I'm just giving you the information that it needs to be set up, but there are resources. I do have some affiliate links at the bottom where you can figure out how to kind of like DIY, and I may also have things like you may be able to hire out. If you would like, Amygraves has also offered to do a webinar just for my audience on something like this. So if you are wanting to get access to a webinar, be able to talk to somebody, chat to somebody, possibly even hire them to take care of this, let me know. Send me an email at rita@steeryourmarketing.com. Because if we get enough interest in this, I will go ahead and put together a last minute webinar with Amy so that we can get this taken care of. The sooner you email me, the better, because it's going to get a little crazy with Host Week as I'm helping the Host Week team prepare. So that is SPF. SPF is your approved senders list. All of the apps that you send email with, they have to be on this approved senders list. Then we're talking about DMARC. DMARC is kind of like your contingency plan. Before we go to DMARC, so the next one is DKIM, DKIM. And Cheryl kind of related this to being your wax seal. So remember in the olden days, when people wanted to verify that a letter came like from the king or from the queen or from whoever royal or just from another person, everybody had their individual type of wax seal. So they would put wax as they closed the letter, put wax, and then they sealed it with the seal to know that this was an authentic letter from them. And so this is what the DKIM is doing. It is to know if someone has tampered with your emails or not. So it's pretty much like a string of code that gets added. Like all these are really strings of code that gets added to your domain records. And so that's what the DKIM is for, is it helps to let the email service provider know that yes, this is an authentic email that came from the Rita Ventures domain. And if it is not, if they suspect that it is not, that's where your DMARC comes into play, which is your DMARC, your contingency plan on, okay, so what if your email has been tampered, what should that email service provider do from there? So it's that 3-point. It's your approved senders list, it's your digital wax seal, and then it's also your digital contingency plan. Now, you can go ahead and check with a free authentication program called Email Smart to see which ones of these are you still needing. Like maybe your SPF is good and your DMARC and your DKIM aren't good. So you can check that out on your own. If you don't have SPS or DKIM, so if you don't have that approved senders list, or if you don't have that wax seal, you're effectively starting from scratch because you're relying on the email service provider's reputation. AKA, for those of you that have not been using a domain email and have been using an @Gmail, @Yahoo, @Outlook account to send your email list, you're going to have to build up like the know-like trust between your domain authentication, as it may not have previously been utilized before because you've been relying on Gmail's DMARC and all those special letters and all that. You've been relying on that from Yahoo and Outlook, and now it's time to rely on your own domain. Everyone, there's going to be a lot of us that are going to be building up our domain reputation up right now. It's important to ease into that and not to like, let's do this ASAP. Because actually I did not write the because, but what I would deduce from that is to like ease it in, just it's kind of like just ease on in. It's just going to be easier if you ease on in than be like, boom, bam, I'm verified. I did it. Look at me. I'm good to go. I think like if it's done quickly, it just looks a little suspicious. There are also people who have been saying that domain authentication really is only for like if you're emailing a lot, big accounts, over 5,000 emails in a day. And Cheryl did talk a lot about like not even worrying about the minimums. Just the priority is just to get properly authenticated, because any of these can change what those limits are. And if you're already authenticating your domain right now, then you're ahead of the game and you don't have to worry about this any future. No @Gmail, @Yahoo, @Outlook will be allowed for marketing messages. So that has to go in, like when I say, like, if you only have been emailing people from an @Gmail account or whatever, that is not a good thing. You need to, like, you have a little bit more work to do than other people who already have an email with their domain in it. Let me see what my notes are here. So you need your domain, then you need a mailbox like Google Workspace. You need to build that reputation, and you need to authenticate it, are really like the big things that are happening here. There are also new parameters in terms of spam complaints. So a traditional spam complaint is approximately like 0.1%. If you exceed 0.3%, you could get completely blocked, which means you're going to go to Google jail. So there's been some of us that have kind of like experienced Facebook jail or Instagram jail before. I don't think Google jail would look any prettier. I feel like Google jail will probably actually look very much worse. And if you go to Google jail and you cannot communicate to your clients via email, especially in the travel industry, this is not a good thing. So, and this is like why a lot of these parameters are being put in place. And if you do what Cheryl and all the other people who are like helping you facilitate this do, it should, there's no guarantees, but it should reduce the risk of you kind of like increasing your spam complaints. Also, how they're going to determine this spam complaint range percentage is changing, because it used to be the number of complaints versus the number of emails sent, and now it's the number of complaints versus the number of engaged contacts. And this is one of the reasons why it's important that, like, anybody that's on your email list, if they're not engaged, like, get rid of them, delete those email addresses, because currently what I guess these providers, the Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, they're looking at people that haven't opened an email from. So if you started emailing them today and 20 days from today they haven't opened your email, there's a very high likelihood that they won't ever open your emails. And so that means that contact is unengaged. They're not interacting with it. It's kind of like they're not interested. Because of that, that's kind of like, it makes me think of like the dogs perking up their ears. Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft are kind of relating these unengaged contacts to the same level as spam. So it looks negatively on you if you keep emailing somebody and they've never opened an email of yours, or they've never like clicked on anything of yours. It's going to look bad on you that you're still sending them emails. So if somebody is unengaged, get them off your list. If they were ever going to convert to a customer, they will find a way to reach out to you, or they'll get added back to your list. But it's not worth having kind of like this empty contact on your email list if it could possibly like ding you and put you into that territory that I was just mentioning about spam complaints. Other things that you can do is really make sure that you're writing like yourself, and that you're writing to other people who are like yourself, to really avoid looking like a bot. And that makes me think a lot about like AI. I know that has been 2023 is the year that AI kind of like exploded. And as I mentioned to Marketing Business School in this month's masterclass about marketing trends, we really talked about the savviness of our buyer right now. And they can tell if you're using an AI, because you can certainly tell if somebody else is using an AI. So that human component, that authenticity, that storytelling, that real stories is going to be super important to making sure, and it's going to be super important for any of the AIs that are combing to make sure that you're a human, really like point out like, oh yes, they're using this, they're saying this, it's going to give them kind of like the heads up to know that you are an actual human. And they don't have to worry about like flagging you. That's what my understanding is. They don't have to worry about flagging you as a spam email or anything like that. Whew. Alrighty. I know that was a lot. And again, that was super high level. So I am going to include links that you can watch a free webinar by Cheryl Rarick to learn a little bit more in depth, because she like was just super knowledgeable. I just wanted to get like the high level items out to you so that you were aware of what's happening, knew kind of like the big things of what's included and what you needed to do, so that when you watch it, you're a little bit more prepared. Like I know for me, especially with something that is so techy as something like this and domain authentication, it has gone over my head, and it's gone through many of our heads. And so listening to this information multiple times is only going to be more helpful and beneficial in helping you understand what's going on. And then Cheryl has also created some workshops that you can purchase to DIY this yourself. I know that there's a lot of people right now that might be able to do it for you. I'll see if I have any links. Just look at the show description for all the links. So if I'm able to find somebody who you're able to hire and get this done and taken care of for you, especially with wave season now, go ahead and do that. But if you're not in a position to hire this out just yet, or you have a little bit of bandwidth that you can do it yourself, I highly recommend purchasing the workshops that Cheryl has to kind of like walk you through the steps of setting up those critical components of SPF, DMARC, and DKIM. And then, so the links are available. And then if you are interested in doing like a live webinar about this, Amygraves has graciously offered herself to kind of like go through a little bit of what the changes are and what's happening. But I need to have a lot of interest in this in order to like bring her on board. And I also need interest in this like super fast. So if you're like, I need to know this information ASAP, you need to email me, rita@steeryourmarketing.com. And just let me know, like put in the subject line, bring Amy on ASAP or whatever it might be, so that I'm aware that you're very interested in joining a live webinar about this, because all I have access to right now are just recordings. All right, so I hope that this has been super helpful. Yes, this is a little bit scary. I am scared. This does make me a little bit nervous. I know we're going to get over it. But again, just really important for me to get the information out to you so that you're prepared, not scared, and that you can get yourself in the right direction, because February 1st is going to come super fast. So I would, if you're able to dedicate a day to kind of like learning and getting things done, dedicate a day between now and then to get it done, because emails really are where you build community, private community, which is so important now in 2024. It's where you can build a relationship, let people in a little bit more in an intimate environment, and also where you can ask for sales because people have decided to be on your email list. You haven't just put them on there. So if you have any questions for me, I am always here for you, but I hope that this has been super helpful. And if you know a travel advisor friend who you don't think has this information, please make sure to share this episode with them so that they are also prepared for the big crackdown that's happening way sooner than later. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you here next week, hopefully with not as scary as an episode. All right, I'm here for you. Talk soon. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.